How's it going, guys? This is Christian here with Forward Momentum. This is the episode that many of you have been waiting for, and that is tuning the LEXUS GS400. There's a couple things that you're going to need before you start the tuning process. I've covered them on previous episodes, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about those briefly here. The first thing that you're going to need is some type of wideband so you can keep an eye on what's going on in your air-fuel ratio. The second thing you're going to need is something that has the ability to piggyback off your ECU and to take control of the air-fuel ratio. What I am going to use is called the Apexi Neo, and I covered that in a previous episode. Once you have those two items installed, plus your modifications, you can begin to tune your vehicle. What the Apexi Neo looks like in the dark. It's actually early morning and it looks pretty good. It has a bit of an antiquated look to it, but I covered in my other video of how to set it up and the different options. Graph on the right hand side is throttle input and the graph on the left is RPM. That's just one of the settings I have it on. But when you adjust the car, the air-fuel ratio, you're actually going to go into something called air map. It was running pretty rich. It was actually at 12.3, so I'm not making ideal power. 12.5 to 12.8 is what I'm targeting. Okay guys, to tune, you're gonna need a long stretch of road and the willingness to go above the speed limit slightly. And you gotta pay attention to what's behind you, because right now I've got a huge truck behind me. If I slow way down in third gear, he's gonna get all pissed off at me. But what you wanna do is put it in manual mode and downshift, and you want to pick a zone like 4,000 to 5,000 RPM. So if I go to third, I'm at 4,000 RPM, watch. So I'm a little rich between 4 and 5,000 RPM. I'm hitting 12.4 to 12.6. You kind of want to be at 12.5 into the 12.7 range for the most power. So I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment up here. So now let's see what kind of difference that made. All right, 4,000 RPM and go. So you can see the difference on the AFRs. It was running right around 12.6 to 12.7. So I'm going to leave it right there. Basically what you want to do is you want to pick blocks on your RPM range and you want to try to tune to that. 3,000 to 4,000 is the hardest because your car wants to kick down a gear and you really want to leave it loaded and at that certain RPM. Put your foot down on the accelerator almost to the floor, but not quite, and the car will not kick down, but it will go into open loop mode. So it sounds really complicated and I'm throwing out a lot of terms right now. It's really not that complicated. You've got 16 points to adjust the air-fuel ratio on, and all you do is watch your AFRs, okay? So I'm in fourth gear right now at 3,000 RPM. We're gonna have a little bit of torque converter interference here, but I'm gonna go ahead and put my foot down without flooring it all the way. So it's good, it's at 12.7 to 12.8. So I'm gonna call our 3,000 to 4,000 RPM adjustment good, and then I'm gonna do one more test here in a second. I'm gonna get down to 3,000 RPM, and I'm gonna go ahead and go. All the way to 4,000. Okay, right around 3,800, I saw it bump a little rich. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that adjustment if I have it. Let's go to 4,000 RPM again. Slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. Okay, ready, steady, go. All the way to the floor. 5,000 to 6,000. Okay, so we're running right in the 12.6s to 12.7s from 5,000 to 6,000 RPM. End up burning quite a bit of fuel doing this. That's the other thing. 100 RPM up. Here we go on a hill. Watching my AFRs. Okay, I'm gonna try 3,000 to 4,000. 3,000 and go. No, don't kick down. Ready, set, go. Okay, here's what I want to say about the tuning process. Don't be intimidated. It really is not that bad. If you happen to get an Apexi Neo, put it on easy mode and run your RPM range from 2,000 RPM till about 6,200 RPM, somewhere in there. Okay, I'm going to show you what I have my Apexi Neo set on. First thing you want to do is go to etc. And under the mode select menu right here, you want to determine how you want to tune your vehicle. Now, as you can see, I currently have it in Pro mode. That gives you 16 points of adjustment. Easy mode gives you 8. You have to decide what works best for you. I personally like Pro mode. It gives you a lot of options. So I'm just going to back out of this menu. And I'm going to show you the air map. So to get to air maps, you go over to setting, enter, and air map. Now we're not going to worry about the low throttle air map because this car just, well, and Toyotas in general, fight to hit 14.7. So the low map really doesn't do anything. So we're just going to focus on the high map. What I want you to see is what I have my RPM increments set at. I start at 1,000 RPM and I work my way all the way up at 350 RPM increments. So I have it set at 1,000 on the first setting, and as you'll see as I arrow through, it climbs all the way up to 6,250 at adjustment point 16. Now you'll see I start adding fuel right away. So I have 4% increase starting at 1,000 RPM. And as I arrow through, you'll see it increase even further. 7% increase until I hit 5,200 RPM, and then I start to drop it back down. And finally ending on 2% increase at 6,250. Keep in mind, your settings are going to vary depending on where you live, meaning the elevation, the weather, your car, the engine, all those things are key factors in how you set up yours. So you really need to have a wideband hooked up, and I covered that on a previous episode. So if you want to see how to hook up a wideband without a welder, I cover that. All right, so this will give you a good baseline of how to set up yours. If you have, I have intake and exhaust on my car, on my LEXUS GS400. So if you need something to work with, this will give you fantastic mid-range punch. I definitely felt it, which means it's at least 20 horsepower gain, and I'm going to take it to the dyno and confirm that, but I certainly felt it. The 12.4 to 12.8 range on your wideband. Simple. That's it. And then once you think you've street tuned it properly, take it to the dyno and confirm that your settings are correct.